Councillors, can I have your attention, please? I welcome you all to this meeting of the Cardinia Shire Council and now declare the meeting open. Please note that due to current COVID-19 restrictions, this meeting is being held in person with a limited gallery and webcast live over the internet. But I do welcome the gallery. It is fantastic that we've been able to open the gallery for a limited number. I know that was called for. On behalf of councillors of Cardinia Shire Council, its staff and community, I express our deepest sympathies at the passing of Councillor Ray Brown on Friday, the 16th of April 2021. Councillor Brown was an exceptional councillor, serving a full term representing the Port Ward from 2016 to 2020, and he was also re-elected in October 2020 to serve as the councillor for the Western Port Ward. Testament to his commitment to the local community, Councillor Brown represented council on a number of boards and committees, including the Audit Committee, the Grants Evaluation Committee, the Motorsports Club Steering Group, the Township Committee, the Western Port Catchment Implementation Committee, the Western Port Biosphere, Council Liaison Committee, and the Yallock Drainage Advisory Committee to Melbourne Water. Councillor Brown was also actively involved in local community groups, committees and organisations, including the Kirirup Township Committee, the Kirirup Community Centre, Kirirup Recreational Reserve Committee and the Kirirup Bowls Club. For his service to the community, Councillor Brown was awarded the Cardinia Shire Citizen of the Year Award in 2011. We were all honoured and privileged to know Councillor Brown and to experience his dedication to our and his community. On behalf of all councillors, staff and the community of Cardinia Shire Council, our thoughts are with his wife Ellen and his family at this very tough time. Rest in peace, Ray. And at the agenda item of Councillor Reports, other councillors may wish to reflect during that agenda item. But all our love go to Alan and family at this difficult time. Thank you, councillors. I will go to Councillor Ross to say the prayer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. God Almighty, we humbly request that you bestow your blessings upon this council, direct and prosper our deliberations to the advancement of your glory and to the betterment of the peoples of Cardinia Shire. Amen.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Cardinia Shire Council respectfully acknowledges that we're on the traditional land of the Bunurong and Wurundjeri people, and we pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Apologies. We have received an apology from Councillor Tammy Radford and Councillor Davies for tonight's meeting. Councillors, can I have a motion, please, to adopt the minutes of the previous meetings as listed in the agenda? Can I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Kowalczyk. Councillors, I put it up for a vote. All those in favour, please indicate. Thank you, carried. Councillors, are there any declarations of interest you wish to declare? Any conflicts or otherwise? There being none, I note that. Moving on to ordinary business. Council conducts its meetings according to a consent agenda. Councillors have advised of the matters for consideration this evening that they wish to discuss or debate. The items withdrawn for tonight's proceedings are as follows. Item 6.1.2, development of the land for 7 dwellings and associated works at 15 Main Street in Goon. This item has been withdrawn. We have an alternate motion. That's been withdrawn by Councillor Moore. Thank you, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I have deferred this item for the development of the land for 7 dwellings and associate works in Goon for this evening. This deferral is due to changes for the permit application within the following areas. Yes.
Or I'll just get a seconder, and then
thank
you
you.
can talk to
Thank you,
your
Mayor Owen.
deferment option.
I was getting ahead of myself, Mayor Owen. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask for a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Springfield. Seconding. I will go to you, Councillor Moore, to talk to your deferment, please.
Thank you, Mayor Owen. The permit applicants have considered the further concerns of the objectors, including concerns that the application does not appropriately respond to the single-storey neighbourhood character of Narnagoon, the Narnagoon Township, and are seeking to make further amendments to the plans to address these issues. In order to do so, more time is required in order to amend the plans to be submitted to Council and circulate to all parties due consideration. To allow this to occur, the application is required to be deferred until completed. And this hopefully will be in the town planning meeting on the 3rd of May, or the nearest council meeting to that, which could be the 17th of May from there on. I must say, Mayor, if I can add, that the applicant is very responsive to this, to the objectors' concerns here, and I'm elated that they're listening to what the objectors are saying for the character, particularly of the Narnagoon Main Street, that is all single story through there, so you can understand where the problems will be. And I can congratulate the Narnagoon residents and the Progress Association there for their input into this and their persistence. It's going to pay off at the end, and I think this will be a great result for our community. Mayor Owen, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Moving on to the seconder, Councillor Springfield. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing further to add.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. Any other councillors wishing to speak to this deferment? And the deferment, I'll just repeat, councillors, that council defer the consideration of this item until the May 2021 council meeting to allow the applicants to amend the permit application to address objectors' concerns. So that's the alternate motion before us, councillors. There being no other councillors wishing to speak, I will go to Councillor Moore to sum up. Thank you, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Owen. That's all I have to say on that item. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, councillors. I'll put this item up to a vote. All those in favour, please indicate by a show of hands. Thank you. Any against? That's carried. Thank you, councillors. Moving on to item 6.2.1, Cockatoo Community Market Petition. This item has been withdrawn by Councillor Springfield. Thank you, Councillor Springfield.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that 1, Council notes the petition. 2, request officers work with the Cockatoo Country Market Organising Committee to require the safe ongoing operation of their twilight and regular market events, including any suggestions for alternative locations. 3, undertake an assessment of the regular market in operation to inform future traffic management options. 4, undertake a range of traffic management investigations for Pakenham Road, including signage and line marking to better manage event activity. And 5, note Council's festival and events officer role currently being recruited. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Kowazik. Back to the mover, Councillor Springfield. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, this report has come back to Council. It's in relation to a petition that I put forward to this council chamber a few months ago. 648 signatures, so which was a substantial amount of community interest in the continuation of this market. The petition came about from a situation that occurred towards the end of last year, which was a recognition, I guess, from our traffic management point of view, from our traffic safety officers' point of view, that there was some concerns about the operation of the market in its previous format of creating some safety concerns within the main road section there of Pakenham Road. Look, so subsequently from that, the first comments were that that the market shouldn't be held in this current location because of those concerns. And it caused a lot of concern within the community and within the market committee, who have been running a fantastic market for the previous 6 years. Look, I note their dismay at this evolution of events, so to speak. The market has been very successful in the past. There has been no direct safety issues that have come from the past, thankfully, touch wood. But in saying that, that is the safety officer's job, is to assess and understand these things from times, and his assessment of the time back then was that look, it's unsafe to proceed in that location in its current format. So we've been going through a process ever since to work with the committee and try and address that. But this report is in relation specifically not to the work that council officers are doing in the background, but it's a report on the petition that was tabled from residents who raised concerns from the idea that council was trying to prevent the market. And look, I've got to say, I've worked in the background on this quite a bit. It's not the officers' thoughts or feelings to try and stop the market happening. It is a great market. It has a lot of community benefit, and our interests as a whole, and I can speak for the Mayor and the CEO who I spoke to at length at this item, is to see the continuation of this. But we have to make sure, from a responsible authority's point of view, that it is continued in a safe and productive manner for everyone involved. So that is where we've gotten to this point. I could say the work great work has been done to this point. It's not all captured within this report. This report was supposed to come back to last month's previous meeting, but with the short time frame that we have in the February and the turnaround, it didn't quite make the deadline, so it was extended until this month to have this report come forward. But look, I would like to thank the officers involved, for working on this, and they are continuing to work on this. I have been told today that the next market will be happening in the preferred location with assistance from council officers towards traffic management and such to meet these to meet the safety requirements that have been outlined. And it is my great hope, and I have full faith, toss a coin, but full faith, let's say, that we're going to get to a great result in the end. Look, I feel like I want to say I apologise, but I don't really have something to apologise for. But I am sorry that there has been concern within the community of us trying to stop something, which is a great thing. But that is not the focus of this council, is to stop something which creates great community benefit. It is in order to proceed, to make sure it proceeds in a safe and sustainable manner. So that's what we are currently working towards. I'll leave it there, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. We'll now go to the seconder, Councillor Kowaczyk. Thank you, Councillor Kowaczyk.
Thank you, Mayor Owen. Thank you, Councillor Springfield. I'd just like to echo Councillor Springfield's sentiments. Council as an organisation, council officers and the traffic engineers have a responsibility to ensure safety. And I think that's all that's happening here. I know Councillor Springfield has been working very hard on this, and I thank him for his leadership. With regard to this matter, I feel like, from what I hear, and it appears that we're working towards a good outcome in this regard, with Council's commitment to work with the market. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kowaczyk. Any other speakers, either for or against, please, councillors? Thank you, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. I echo the sentiments of both my fellow councillors here about this, because it's all to do with, I see, is community safety is one of our things that we have to be very aware of within our community. And I can see that with the parking on the road, there was a lot of parking out of the car park on the road, and this caused concerns of our safety engineers, and I can see where the problem would be. I did note in that report, though, Councillor Springfield, that the council's festival and events officer role is currently being recruited, and I think that's a fantastic result at the end of that report. I just wanted to note that as well, that we've been waiting for this events officer in that space for a long time, and I think be worthy, particularly in around these marketplaces where they can actually report back and be involved in how these events operate. So I think that's a really good result in this, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Any other speakers, councillors? There being none, I'll go to Councillor Springfield to sum up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I would also like to note, I was contacted by the Market Committee today, who just raised a couple of concerns with the report of just a couple of slight infactual comments that were made there, such as, it was titled as a Cockatoo Community Market Petition, but in effect it is a Cockatoo Country Market. So just to let them know that this report will be finalised with any incorrect facilities. It's also mentioned that like December and March is when they hold, December and February is when they hold their twilight markets, but it's actually has been in December and March previously. So just a couple of anomalies there, which, council officers have assured me that they will get the correct information and correct that before the report is finalised after this meeting. But it was encouraged that this report should go through at this time to get the ball rolling, to get this moving along. And again, I appreciate the officers' work on this, and I appreciate the patience of the Cockatoo Country Market Committee in working to achieve an outcome that works, that's safe for everybody, that's sustainable for everybody. Just to conclude, I'll read from the report. Council supports the continuation of the market from this location, but a traffic management plan must be developed and undertaken to ensure protection and safety of the community attending the event. Should the markets outgrow this location, alternative locations in Cockatoo could be considered. Council's new festival and events officer in that case will work with the organising committee to consider these options. So these guys, they do a great job. It's been running for 6 years now, so I'm quite determined, along with the support of my council officers and councillor colleagues here, to see this continue for many years into the future. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. I'll put this item up for the vote. All those in favour, please indicate by show of hands. Thank you. Any against? Carried unanimously. Moving on to item 6.2.2, which is notice of motion 1058, Beaconsfield Reservoir. And this item has been withdrawn. Thanking Councillor Springfield to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council note that the report requested by the Mayor regarding Beaconsfield Reservoir will not be presented to this meeting but delayed until the May Council meeting to enable a more detailed report to be prepared.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. Seconded by Councillor Graymore. Thank you. Sorry, there's a number of councillors wanting to do so, so thank you. I will go to Councillor Springfield to talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, there's not a lot I can talk about on this report because we don't have it yet. The recommendation is for it to be deferred to gather more information. But I can speak to the community response that we've had towards the interest in the Beaconsfield Reservoir, and there is a strong interest. There is a strong interest there from many different community members and community groups, and there is competing interests as well, where there is differing views coming forward. And I think it's it's great that the community has been engaged for what's happening within their backyard. So that is a positive thing. But look, also I think it's important to note that while council is going to provide us a report on the history of this and such, it is not our land. It is not our decision to make on the future of what happens here. And I think community, I think some community really understands that, but perhaps there are community members out there that don't understand that so well, Mr. Mayor, and understanding that it is a Melbourne Water decision of what happens in this space. But I think Melbourne Water have probably heard loud and clear by now the strong community interests in the different, in the proposals of what will be happening in the future of this site. And I look forward to seeing this report come next month at your request. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. Councillor Moore as the seconder. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't really have much else to add to Councillor Springfield's report, but I'm looking forward to a healthy discussion on this reservoir. I know that I've been to a few of the meetings and listened to the community and what their needs are and what they want. It's okay, and I concur with Councillor Springfield. The land being not owned by council, it does make a difference to what we can do in that space. And sure, what we want is to have it open and have the community walk through this. There's a beautiful walking area. It's a wonderful place to have a picnic. I can see that just visiting the site myself personally. So I think it's that has got a lot of merit. and I can see that. Just a matter of how it's being funded and what can be done in that space. And that's what the report's going to be about, and we're going to have a full discussion on that and see what we can do in that space, not what we can't do. So that's going to be very important when that report comes. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Any other speakers, councillors? There being none, I'll just say some brief words. Thank you, Councillor Springfield, for withdrawing this item. It's just good to let the public know where this report sits. It is a very complex issue, as previous councillors have discussed. It is not our land. Other government departments are responsible for the management of this, Dalwhoop and Melbourne Water. We acknowledge the long-term view regarding the long-term management of this reserve needs to be considered as well in this conversation. So I commend, obviously, General Manager Peter Benezek is coordinating that report. We continue to get a lot of correspondence on this issue as councillors and council, and many differing opinions as well from the wider community and community groups. So I'm comfortable with us spending more time to really provide a really detailed report on this issue. So I support this item. All right, I will go to Councillor Springfield to sum up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And I guess in summary, just to reiterate the community's sentiment that this is an important asset within, right in the centre of the top of Beaconsfield and Beaconsfield upper there. It's a great environmental asset that most people don't even recognise or realise was there behind that fence line. It's not open to the community for community access. So the first time I visited was only a couple of months ago when we had a tour by Melbourne Water to have a look through and understand the dynamics of what's happening in the space, of what exists in the infrastructure there and what their proposal is moving forward and why they are proposing what they are moving forward. They have recognised it as a safety concern, and that's why this has come forward, these proposals. But again, that's not our decision to make at the end of the day. But we are happy to receive the community's sentiments towards this, and I appreciate the community being involved and caring so much about their local environment too, which is one of our greatest assets to have, is the beautiful local environment that we live in within Cardinia Shire. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. I put this item 6.2.2, notice of motion 1058, Beaconsfield Reservoir, up to a vote. All those in favour, please indicate. Thank you. Any against? That's carried unanimously. Moving on to item 6.3.1, which is the item of Mayor and Councillor allowances. Councillor Ross, you have an alternate motion you wish to move. Thank you, Councillor Ross.
I thank you, Mayor. The alternate motion I'll put forward is that the councillor allowance should be increased to a level 3 category. The mayoral allowance should not be lifted higher than the level 3 level and be reviewed in 12 months. The mayor as a councillor should have an increase to the salary at the same financial dollar increase as the councillor category increase.
Thank you, Councillor Ross, for that alternate motion. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Carol Ryan, seconding that motion. I will go to you, Councillor Ross, to speak to your alternate motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just giving some information around this item. 12 months ago, Council chose to defer an increase of council allowances on the basis that we had a COVID situation at the time, and the community was and still are in some areas struggling with the situations at hand. We as a council at the time decided to defer it for 12 months to see what had happened in 12 months' time, that we would reassess whether or not we would make these increases to allowances. Come down the track, we've got our report here, which is saying that the recommendation is that the mayor would get approximately a $21,000 increase. councillors approximately $6,000 increase to their allowances, and this was on the basis that our population growth had gone over a certain amount, so therefore we qualified to go to another category of level of remuneration, and we've always gone to the top end of whatever category this is. Looking at this notice of motion, I struggle with, I can understand going to single member wards, how we used to have multi-wards and you could work as a team in those areas. Different people are going different directions to different things. As a single ward council, you have the responsibility of that ward, including the mayor does, and not only, but that and being the mayor. And so therefore I can actually understand why it's changed in the dynamic of what you do with the responsibility. So therefore I can understand why a $6,000 increase could be justified. Where I struggle, and I struggle with the pub test on this, is in a COVID environment, other than less you're a government department or something that can actually put up things at a level that has less scrutiny and doesn't really, they can just decide to do it. A $21,000 increase to the mayoral allowance during times of COVID. I reflect back on Councillor Owen's second term as mayor. I was the one after. Councillor Moore was the one after that. I look at the workloads that were on there during that time, and I can tell you, to go to everything that you're invited to, I think I missed 2 things that I was double booked or triple booked, and I had to get the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Owen, to go to those on behalf of myself. It was absolutely just a really, really busy time. I must say, during the last 12 months, during COVID, particularly last year, it was unfortunate for Councillor Springfield that he was in that dynamic as mayor. He didn't have as many opportunities to go to, but the workload from what I could see, from what you were going to and having to commit to and get round, because we had COVID and you just couldn't attend things in person, was much reduced. But needless to say, it was never ever brought up whether or not the allowance should be lowered at that time because the workload was less. Come down the track now, I look at it, and with things not even opening up fully, I don't know how, if it was a private business or any private businesses, that could justify when your workload is less than what it would be if you were busy, as in busy during the times when COVID isn't around, how we could justify a $21,000 increase to the allowance. And the reason I've put down, well, let's have a look at it again in 12 months, is hopefully by then we will have moved past a lot of the restrictions and we will be able to attend everything. All our festivals will be up and running. We'll be able to attend all the briefings at Parliament and everything that we need to go to and do whatever we need to do in that space. And I agree, at that time we should review it. Anyway, that is my take on it. I realise other people will have a difference of opinion on this, and I welcome their thoughts, but I just can't see how a business can increase $21,000 of a mayoral allowance when the workload is actually less. Anyway, that's my take. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. I will go to the seconder, Councillor Carol Ryan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I will reserve my right to speak. I'd like to hear the other councillors and what they've got to say before I speak.
All right, I note that, Councillor Ryan. I'll go to any other councillor, either for or against this alternate motion of Councillor Ross's. Thank you, Councillor Springfield first.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, having heard Councillor Ross, I believe I understand the outcome that Councillor Ross wishes to achieve from this notice of motion. Unfortunately, his notice of motion, in my opinion, is poorly worded and fails to achieve the outcome that he's outlined here. You know, and we're talking about notices of motion. They're directives, they're legal directives, and they need to be quite specific. So if I pull it apart, council allowance should be increased to at the level of 3 category. So that means the council allowance should become between $10,914 to, between $13,123 to $31,444. That's the level 3 category. It doesn't specify the amount. So there's no directive there for the specific amount. It then says the mayoral allowance should not be lifted to the higher category 3 level, be reviewed in 12 months. That's fair enough. And the mayor as a councillor should have an increase to the salary at the same financial dollar increase as the councillor's category increase. Well, that's achievable, but you have to go to a category 3 mayoral allowance to increase it above $81,204, right? The Local Government Act clearly states that Category 2 goes up to $81,204, Category 3 goes up to $100,434, and the officer's recommendation has noted that they recommend the higher amount for both councillors and for the mayoral allowance. So unfortunately, in my opinion, this notice of motion is not a directive that can be followed because it doesn't outline specifically what the councillor allowances is going to be, and it doesn't outline specifically what the mayoral allowance is. Beside the mayoral allowance is going to raise, but it shouldn't be going to a level 3 category, but it has to go to a level 3 category for it to be above $81,204. It's many inconsistencies here, I'm sorry to say, Mayor and councillors. So I will not be supporting this, and I would like to foreshadow that I would like to move the officer's recommendation if Councillor Ross's alternative motion is not supported by the council chamber tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. We note your foreshadowed motion to move the officer's recommendation. Any other councillors wishing to speak, either for or against the alternate? Thank you, Councillor Kowazik.
Thank you, Mayor Owen. I will not be supporting this notice of motion tonight. I too have aspirations to be mayor one day, and the $70,000 salary I feel would be prohibitive. Having a young family myself, going on to one wage when my partner goes on maternity leave, I just don't think it's enough money. And so I think if we want to be inclusive as a council, we should follow the line dictated by the state government. In earlier discussions tonight with my fellow councillors, I questioned the reasoning behind this notice of motion. The answer I got back from Councillor Ross was around perception. He was worried about how it would look, which is a perfectly legitimate concern. But given that we've received no formal community submissions on this particular topic, I think is indication enough as to the people's response to that. People want us to get on with the job. Moving into line with the appropriate pay scale is doing exactly that. Thank you, Mayor Owen.
Thank you, Councillor Kowazik. Any other councillors? Thank you, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Owen. I will not be supporting this alternative motion either. I'll be quite happy and to second the foreshadowed motion. What we miss out on, what we're focusing on here, is we're understating the actual responsibility of the mayor here. It's not how many events one would go to. It's not what one does in the community. It's a responsibility factor of what the mayor has to do and be on call. I've been mayor before. I know exactly how it feels. If there was a flood or a fire or whatever, I know who would be in the front line. The mayor would be. No matter what events you may go to or cut ribbons to certain things, it's all beside the point. It's your availability of when those things are there, and that's what the mayor is paid for, and that's where the bringing up to that level category, I think right across the board is fair, as the state government has suggested, because if we don't keep everything up with the current values, what sort of category of councillor would we get on board here? I mean, that's what's going to happen down the track somewhere if we don't keep up with where we are with financially of levels. So I will certainly be seconding the foreshadow motion tonight, because I think it's well and due, and I think it's because of this category 3 is very important. So I think I'm with Jeff. Thank you, Councillor Rowan.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Any other speakers? I think I'll say some statements before I go to Councillor Ryan, who has reserved her right to speak. I also acknowledge there was no submissions when we went out to the public in regarding their views. I know at the council meeting back in February, I think that was the position of a number of councillors, just to see what the submissions come back like, and there was 0 submissions. Any councillor may wish to forego any increase, whether they're mayor or or councillor, any councillor can make that decision to forego that increase. I dispute, Councillor Ross, your comments about the business of the Mayor during a pandemic. As people know, I've been Mayor 3 times. This is my 3rd time, and I don't think I've ever been as busy in my previous terms. You're busy, it's different, it's fair to say. Different to non-pandemic mayoral years. Just different, not less busy. So I agree with the comments. Once you start meddling with the categories and allowances, I think you do reduce opportunities for people become candidates to be a councillor, to therefore become a mayor, and you reduce the opportunities for current councillors to consider, putting their hand up to mayor. I think you're running a very dangerous line. So I will not be supporting your alternate motion. I will go to Councillor Ryan to talk. Thank you. To speak.
Thank you, Mayor. I will be supporting Councillor Ross's motion, alternate motion, and I'll give the reasons why. And thank you to all the other councillors for giving your input. It's always good to hear everybody's input and everyone's vision on how we see things. This is about, we are going to be a Category 3 because we are a growing community. But also, maybe we didn't have submissions, as I pointed out earlier, that some people don't get the local paper, some people don't have computers, so a lot of community don't always see those things to put a submission in, which is a bit sad. Maybe we can look at other ways of helping our community in the near future. I think some of the things I question on this is more about, with the councillor's allowance covering that, there is a huge difference between the amount that councillors earn and the amount the mayoral role earns. And we all choose to work probably over the hours that we're usually allocated as councillors. I think also too that, in my first term, I didn't put in for any travelling allowance. That was a choice. And we're also saying tonight that it is a choice whether we choose to take that pay rise or we don't. And I can see as single ward councillors, yes, we are doing more work. I'm working nearly every day doing something for council now, and that wasn't happening in last term. And so, not that I criticise that, but I value the fact that, there is plenty of work to do for council. But some of the concerns I have, we are still in COVID recovery. We do have people in our community that are struggling. We've got businesses that have lost their businesses because of COVID. And because of that, rates go up and our residents struggle because of that. And some of our residents won't see how it can be justified, a pay rise of that amount. Not having a pay rise, but having the difference between the understanding of what a councillor earns and the difference of what a mayor earns. And it's up to us to explain that to the community, the difference of our roles. If I didn't have my other work outside of here, I wouldn't survive on councillor allowance, I must admit that. But I'm lucky enough to have my own business. But during COVID, that was pretty tough. But if I choose not to take the allowance in the pay rise, that will be my choice, the same as everyone in this room. So my concern is that how the community, yes, does see, can we justify it even though there is that amount that's going to be, could be allocated from the local government. but also how they see our role and how we produce the work that we do. So I think I just have my reservations about this, is why I am supporting Councillor Ross on this, basically because I have my own vision that at this stage I'm really concerned about the huge amount and it is not a full-time job. None of our jobs are full-time in council. And that's the difference. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. I will go to the mover to sum up his alternate motion. Thank you, Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to cover off on a few different things that I've heard, as per the report, at the moment the mayoral allowance is $81,000 plus 9% super. So that brings it out at about roughly $89,000 a year at this very moment. With the increase, it would go up to 110, which includes the 9.5% super. So we're gone from 89 to 110. In relation to other comments that have been made, I believe the motion steps out the intent clearly of the motion. We can always word things better, but the intent is clearly there. Like in a court of law, they look to the intent and see if they can find the intent. In relation to this matter, I don't know, maybe I see things differently from a pub level. I worked in an industry where hardship went through a few years ago, and for 4 years the organisation who was overseeing that took no pay rise for 4 years, because they said people are doing it hard and we need to be able to, demonstrate that we feel their pain. And in this space, I've sort of tried to dissect what I can actually justify and say with the single wards, and the other area I struggle in. So therefore, that's why I put it up. It's for, I thank all councillors for giving their points of view, which I respect, and I look forward to seeing which ways people vote. I hope people vote the way to support it, but anyway, we'll wait and see. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillors, I will put Councillor Ross's alternate motion to this item. All those in favour, please indicate by a show of hands. Thank you. Those against, please indicate. Show of hands. Thank you.
Can I call for a division, please, Mayor?
So that alternate motion has lost. Councillor Ross has called a division. So all those councillors indicating support for Councillor Ross's, please stand. I note Councillor Ross. I note Councillor Ryan. Thank you. All those against the alternate motion, please stand, please. I call Councillor Kowalczyk, Councillor Moore, Councillor Springfield, Councillor Owen. That alternate motion has lost. So, Councillor Springfield, you foreshadowed a moving the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move the officer's recommendation as listed in the papers.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. Can I have a seconder, please? That's seconded by Councillor Moore. Thank you, Councillor Moore. I will go to the mover. Thank you, Councillor Springfield.
Thank you, ma'am. So, look, as has been previously mentioned, we've been discussing this from the previous item. Early last year, we became a Category 3 council. It wasn't a point of discussion. It was never a point of discussion for us to decide whether we're a Category 3 council or not. We were nominated because of the size that we've grown. We are now a Category 3 council. At that point in time, it was suggested to us that if we wish to go through a process of increasing our wages to reflect a Category 3 wage, we could go through that process, but it wasn't necessary, as it is necessary after each new council term has to be set within 6 months due to the Local Government Act of 1989 within a new council term. And hence why we find ourselves here today, because we've left that threshold to the end of that 6 months almost from the new council term. And reflective of that, the officer's recommendation is to set at the highest threshold of the Category 3 allowance. And we continue to previously, we didn't get to choose if we're going to be category 3 or not. We just chose to maintain the status quo because we wanted to give the new council, which was only going to be coming 8 months down the track from the point of time we had these discussions, the opportunity to set their salaries and remuneration moving forward. We were very hopeful that we wouldn't even have to do this process because it is mandated in the new Local Government Act of 2020 that it will that in the future it will be set by the Remuneration Tribunal Victoria. Unfortunately, that hasn't been enacted as yet by the local government minister, and hence we find ourselves at reaching the end of this 6-month threshold when we have to, due to the old act, we have to work off. And I know this sounds confusing for some people who aren't learned in the local government acts and such, but that's why we have to set our own salaries at this point. I really hope that within the next 6-7 months or whenever it is, the local government minister enacts this with the tribunal, and then it is set, and we never have to have these discussions again, trying to decide on what our own salaries will be moving forward. It'll be set by an outside tribunal, and I think there's a much better system to work within. So I look forward for that coming. But at this point in time, we have to go through this process. So I move the officer's recommendation as listed. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. Moving to the seconder, Councillor Moore. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Owen, and well done, Councillor Springfield. I have no hesitation to second this motion. On reflection, when you think about the mayor's position, and we're single ward councillors, at the moment the mayor's got to look after his own ward, plus look after the council as a whole, as well as a complete responsibility without any assistance from those wards. So of course, yes, the single ward council situation is more difficult. But in looking in hindsight to that, councillors also wouldn't have went to events either, like they would have normally without the COVID-19. So it's no different, really, to if you're talking about going to events. So it's no different in that regard with councillors. If you're talking about increasing the councillors' award and allowances and not the mayor's, it doesn't make sense to me in that regard. So I've got no hesitation to second, and I reiterate exactly what you said, Councillor Springfield. Thank you, Mayor Owen.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Any other councillors either for or against this item? Before I go back to the mover, I'll just say some brief comments. Sorry? So I'll allow you, Councillor Ross. You want to speak? I'll allow that. Thank you, Councillor Ross.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Oh, sorry, Mayor. I'm not meant to say Mr. Mayor. I'm meant to say Mayor. Bad habit. Look, just highlighting something on this for people to have some perspective on this. Once you jump over about 100,000, you jump another category up to a classification. Some of the councils that we're now in the classification with is someone like a Casey, which has got 364,000, and that was in 220 before the population growth over the last thing. We're in Wyndham, 270,000 population in those areas. We've approximately got down, it tells me on the Google machine here, 116,000 residents. So, and I know that in different areas we have different amount of residents, voting residents within wards. Some people in Casey used to argue with me that where we have, say, 10,000 in our ward per capita councillor, they say, well, we've got 30,000. How would you like to be in my ward where you've got 3 times as many people? Anyway, that just gives, it does jump over to another level. And when you jump over to another level, it dramatically changes. Anyway, I just see in Cardinia Shire what I've already shared, and I won't go over that as in the alternate motion. People understand the reasonings why I supported that, and I won't be supporting this. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to just share that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Just checking, no further speakers, councillors. Briefly, before I go to Councillor Springfield, I'll just say a few comments. In my opinion, the role of mayor is a full-time job. To do it properly, you could take the role and only do it half-baked, but in my time as councillor and as mayor, I've always gone at it at the full hog. more than 110%, and probably doing over 80 hours a week at the sacrifice of family, etc. So, in my opinion, it is a full-time job to do if you do it properly. I just wanted to state that I disagree with some statements that it's a part-time job. It's not a full-time job. It is a full-time job, in my opinion. I once again say that any councillor or mayor can forego this proposed increase. That's their right if they wish to, irrespective of the population, and councillors might wish to do that as well if we don't think we're up at the same level as other Category 3 councils. I note there's no submissions to this item, and I will be supporting the officer's recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Springfield.
Thank you, Mayor. And again, you make a very good point. No councillor has to take. They can forgo all of their remuneration if they wish to, or donate it to charity. Whatever they like to do with it, they are very welcome to do so. Look, I think there is a great inconsistency that's been raised as an argument against this. That the inconsistency being that the councillor's remuneration should raise to the highest bar, to the highest level, but the mayor's remuneration shouldn't raise to that same highest level. I think that is an inconsistency, and it's easy to be levelled if you're not the mayor, perhaps. But I disagree with that. So I am very supportive of the officer's recommendation moving forward, and I hope that councillors will support this also, and so we can move on with it. And I look forward to the Remuneration Tribunal setting this in the future, and us never having to have such discussions again. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. I'll put this item, the Mayor and Councillor Allowance agenda item, to a vote. All those in favour, please indicate by a show of hands. Thank you. Those against? That's carried.
I call for a Division 2 again, please, Mayor.
I thought so. All those councillors in favour of this item, please indicate by standing up, and I will call Councillor Kowalczyk, Councillor Moore, Councillor Springfield, Councillor Owen. Thank you. Those against this item, please stand, and I call Councillor Ross, Councillor Ryan. That item is carried. Thank you. Moving on to major projects. This item has been withdrawn by Councillor Moore. Thank you, Councillor Moore.
So it has, Mayor Owen, so it has. I move that this report be noted.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Kowalczyk. I will go to Councillor Moore to talk to the report.
Thank you, Mayor Owen, and thank you, Councillor Kowalczyk, for the second. I wanted to withdraw this item because it is a progress report for our community and us as councillors to see where these projects are within our council. And the reason why I wanted to raise them, because there's a few items in Couirup here that I wanted to report on, because they're very special. That's the Couirup Recreation Reserve, the football and the cricket pavilion upgrade, which the project is ready for completion in May this year. It's the removal of the change rooms facilities and construct the new football, cricket and change room facility and gym, meeting and community rooms. It's a fantastic upgrade. That's one of the ones in Couirup in the Rec Reserve. The other Rec Reserve project is the netball pavilion upgrade. Completed in May this year, so it's nearly completion as well. And it'd be really great to see these particular buildings complete. And the Couirup Secondary School Pavilion, which is all hand in hand with the new pavilion of the football oval and the unisex change rooms, which is very important to us. But the reason, Mr Mayor, why I wanted to raise these on behalf of our passing of Councillor Ray Brown, he would have withdrawn these items up and spoke on them. And I want to just say what a great legacy these are from our former councillor that has done such a fantastic job in this Couirup area to get these. And it's unfortunate that he won't be able to see these things in their completion, but I just wanted to note them, particularly on tonight's meeting, and I want to thank you for allowing me to speak Mayor Owen, and I'll leave it for the other councillors to speak on other items if they prefer to. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Well said. Thank you. Councillor Kowazik, as seconder.
Thank you, Mayor Owen, and thank you, Councillor Moore. Well spoken. As always, I'm happy to second this report. I know all councillors like speaking to this report, but it was music to my ears, like yours, to hear of that significant progress through some projects throughout Kooyrup. So very nice, very well put. I had the privilege of attending the opening of the Conley Banks Pavilion along with many of my colleagues in the room tonight, and I must say the facility is of the highest order. Also met there some members of the Pakenham Eels Rugby Club, of which Conley Banks will become their base once the grounds are completed. And I just wanted to make mention of them because they do take seriously their leadership position within the community, which it's very nice to see such a socially conscious club get rewarded for that. So thank you, big shout out to them.
Thank you, Councillor Kowazik. Any other councillors wishing to speak? Thank you, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Moore, for bringing this up. It's always interesting to have these conversations of the hard work that the team, not only ourselves, but the officers, combining together and also government to get all of these projects up and happening. I want to mention the Cardinia Road level crossing removal. And the works are expected to be completed by mid-2021. And the construction of the bridge to take the road over the railway line. This will create some more open space in the area and a community recreation space underneath the southern bridge, as well as reducing congestion in the area of traffic. I think this is really absolutely fantastic. The project is fully funded and delivered by the Victorian Government. I think this is a project that's been long awaiting, and I can just see the traffic being a vast improvement from that level. The next project I wanted to bring up was the, just bear with me, I'll just bring it up on my computer. Sometimes it's easier, as I will put it, that easier to read because I can make it larger. I don't have to wear the glasses as often. In saying that, I'm not going to find it. So the Pakenham Regional Tennis Centre. This is another project that's been going on for over 4 years. And the extension, the pavilion extension that's going to happen at the Regional Tennis Centre, the project is to be completed in early November 2021. The project is fully funded by Council. The proposed extension for the Pakenham Tennis Club is for their relocation across there. The pavilion has a steel frame structure and full height glazing, I think that's on the patio there, and a kitchenette, unisex toilets and a lift for a 2-person. So it means that people with disabilities will be able to go up there and watch the tennis, and I think that's a fantastic project, that. The next project is My Place Youth Facility. Relocation and expansion of My Place, parcel of council owned, and that will be erected in James Street in Pakenham. The new facility accommodates approximately around 1,000 square metres of building structure with landscaping and a car park. This is a design to engage and support young people from the age of 12 to 25. It's jointly funded by Council, the Victorian Government, the Growing Suburbs Fund and the Australian Government. Project to be completed in 2022. And I can assure you the youth are looking so forward to it. They are so excited, and we're in the process of renaming it because the word from the youth is they don't like the word facility. And I don't blame them. You know, it's always an interesting thing to get them involved because after all, they're going to use that facility. Oh, there I go, I'm using that word. And I think on that note, I think I'll lead those projects because I'm sure there's other councillors that would like to speak, but I think they were really, really important to me, and well done for the team, well done for councillors supporting this, and well done to the government for supporting these projects as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan, and thank you for mentioning the Cardinia Road removal. Obviously, that's been open for a little while now, but we had the opening of the open space underneath Cardinia Road on the weekend, so that was really good. So thank you for raising that. Any other councillors wishing to speak? Thank you, Councillor Springfield.
Thank you, ma'am. Look, I might just mention too quickly some openings that we got to attend last week, which was fantastic. Yourself and other councillors that were in attendance. So Comley Banks, the Rec Reserve Pavilion there, and a lot of these pavilions and such, we've had our openings delayed for these projects because of, the pandemic. There's this thing that's been going on for about, 14, 15 months now. So it was fantastic to see that it's over the line, see the enthusiasm from the user groups and the supporting groups that are going to be occupying that facility, and it is a great piece. Of infrastructure. That I remember watching it being built along the way. Myself and yourself attended. A bit of a walkthrough with the construction manager, and I was really impressed at the speed they were working and the efficiency. But they've delivered a fantastic project, so that's going to be great for the new officer community out there, and really table to rectangular sports, and especially rugby and touch football as well. So that's great. And the other day, also Warra Reserve Junior Football Club Pavilion, and myself and Councillor Moore was there, and yourself, Mr. Mayor. It's great to see that over the line as well. That was utilised over the weekend. I stopped by to watch the footy, the junior footy going on, and it was great to see that field being utilised at night time. Friday night they were doing a game as well, and seeing the lights on, and really just a buzz in Emerald of junior sports, and getting the kids out there, because last season was cancelled. So anyone that's got some kids in junior sports knows it was a real miss for them, because they had just jumped on PlayStation for the whole time instead of getting out there and being active. So it's great to see them all being out there active in the outside space again and enjoying their sports. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. Any other speakers? Thank you, Councillor Ross. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Look, I'd just like to report on, as Councillor Springfield did, the Comley Banks opening the other day. This is an amazingly great story for a group of people who have been going, I think, probably 4 or 5 years in Cardinia Shire, the Pakenham Eels Rugby League Club, which has got female teams, they've got juniors, they've got seniors, and their touch rugby. People mightn't even realise, because they fly under the radar. I think last year they had over 1,000 participants go through and play their sport through their club. So for them to get this new facility, it will be absolutely amazing. I know that the NRL were excited about it, and they came out to have a look at what's being constructed. It will be our very first rugby league design field that they can play on. I think there'll be 3 or 4 of them at the place. It'll have lighting, spectator seating, playgrounds, car park, open spaces. A very, very exciting project. And then I go on to the IYU Recreational Reserve Athletics Facility design. This will replace the old athletics facility at Toomuck Reserve, which has done its hard yards over the last probably 30 or 40 years, where athletics have been run there. But as you know, it's a grass track. It has a pavilion that shouldn't really be called a pavilion. I think some of the loos that we put in now as facilities would be more suitable for a pavilion than what they have. So it's been a long time coming. It's really exciting for them. It'll have a 400 metre synthetic track. It'll include all of the other things, and a new car park there down at the IYU facility. So I think that's very exciting for those people who have patiently waited. Cardinia Road crossing, I'd just like to say that I think it's fabulous that in all these crossings, when you read through what's budgeted for, you get an upgrade in your train train station car parking always in the same budget, so you don't have to go out looking for more car parking for your train station. If you get a crossing rebuild near there, you automatically get some extra car parking. So that's excellent, because before, when more people were using the train, and hopefully in future, the car parking is at a premium. I must say, looking through the report, you can actually see the multicultural feasibility, the multicultural hub feasibility study. As our Shire gets more diverse, we have more people who come to enjoy the Shire, and they need a place to feel home as well. And this study will be complete in June 2021, so not far away. That'll be great to see what the recommendations come back about how we can support them is. Getting on to an emotional level that I won't say too much at this time, I must say, I promise Councillor Brown that I will do my best to see all the projects that he had in mind completed. The other day, when the announcement came about the Cooey-Rup Bowls Club at Cumley Banks, as soon as Harriet Shing said that the $1.6 million from the Growing Suburbs Fund will go to the Cooey-Rup Bowls Club, I instantly text to his wife, Ellen. Hi, Ellen. Just announced $1.6 million for the Cooey-Rup Bowls facility. Well done, my friend Ray. Please let him know. And I wrote, your friend Collin. And coming back to me within about 1 minute was, hello, Collin. I read your message to Ray. He is absolutely thrilled about the Cooey-Rup Bowls Club. He said to thank you for the news. He's just not well enough to chat at the moment. Fond regards to you and Carmel, and thank you for your friendship and caring, Ellen. So that was on the Wednesday. He passed away on the Friday. So hopefully he will reflect on some work that he did on council that gave him a smile to the very end. And I'll speak about Ray in future when I'm a bit more considered and a bit more in control. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Councillor Ross, for sharing that. I appreciate it. Any other councillors wishing to speak? Just briefly, thank you, councillors, for talking about the openings. I just want to briefly say something about Warrell Reserve. That new pavilion has been talked about for many, many years, and it was great to see that open. I remember years ago when early on when I was a Rangers Ward councillor, speaking to many young people and their parents, talking about the stories of particularly females requiring to get changed in their vehicles because of the facilities were just totally unacceptable and did not meet the expectations of people in these modern times. So it's great that we've got some universal, fully accessible change rooms for the community up there. The Princess Highway upgrades are continuing, particularly around Beaconsfield. I thank the residents for their patience, but we're getting towards the finalisation of those two intersections at O'Neill Road and Glissman. I was out there today checking out works, and it's on track, and hopefully about mid-year that will be finished and we'll move on to the next intersection project. Just following on from the work that everyone's talked about, Ray's legacy. Another one of those, the Strategic Road Sealing Program. So early last week I was in Cooey-Rup checking out the main drain road and the boundary drain road upgrade, the sealing of those two roads. I know that was close to Ray's heart as well. Very important upgrades. All right, thanks councillors for your report. I will go back to Councillor Moore to sum up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Owen. Thank you. And thank you, Councillor Ross, for that emotional comment. I was going to mention that as well. So I thank you for doing that, because it was something very exciting at the Comley Banks opening, that Harriet Shing, the announcement from the Growing Suburbs Fund of $1.6 million to go towards that fantastic project. And I was actually there on Sunday with the bowling club, celebrating, and I was there representing Ray, Councillor Ray Brown, on the day. It wasn't for myself, and I went and seen his wife after that, and we had a long chat for about 2 hours with my wife as well. So it was quite an emotional thing to talk about that bowling club. But I'm going to finish off, Mr. Mayor, with just one statement. It just shows you the way all of these openings and these big ceremonies and events we're going to have in the next 6 months. The actual mayor will be paid double time, I think, for the next 6 months because he's going to be that busy. So if he's got to make up for anything, it'll be the next 6 months is going to be busy as all these pavilions and these ceremonies, and particularly our citizenship ceremonies, so one after another. So we're going to squeeze a lot of our events over the last 12 months into the next 6 months. So it's going to be a busy place for our mayor. So yes, it is a full-time job. But thank you, councillors.
All right, thank you, Councillor Moore. I'll put this item up to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate. Thank you. Any against? Carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to notice of motion. We have one notice of motion, and that's from Councillor Ross. Thank you, Councillor Ross.
I move the notice of motion 1064 that Council includes in every General Council meeting beginning with June 2021 General Council meeting an agenda item to cover gender equity and equality. Once the legislated Gender Equity Action Plan is developed and approved by the relevant Commissioner, this monthly report is replaced by the quarterly report updated progress against the action plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Seconded by Councillor Springfield. Thank you. I note there was a couple there, but I will go to Councillor Ross to speak to his notice of motion.
Thank you, Mayor. Speaking to this notice of motion, I must say I'm an avid person who stays up half the night watching information that I've taped during the day. And once I watched the Women's Justice Rally on the 4th of March this year and listened to what the speakers and the commentary around this space spoke about, I realised that in Cardinia Shire Council, we need to be leaders in the space of gender equity and gender equality. This motion is going to help us in that space that we already do some amazing work in. And to just give you how far we've come in this space, when I first got on council, Councillor Owen and myself were on an all-male council, and we as councillors were the two people designated with anything to do with women's action. So we attended all those meetings. We didn't have any females on council at the time. I must say the VLGA have done an amazing work with our council to try and encourage more women to get on council, which I think around Victoria runs at now just under 50% or 40% of women. I must say something on my journey that I've noticed is that the women who go for different roles are so overqualified for the role that sometimes they put themselves in a position where they don't think they could, whether they should put in their application. And when they do, their applications are outstanding. And I must say that comes with our CEO here. I must say on the Metro Waste Board, the lady Jill Risley who put her name up was just unbelievably outstanding. The VLGA, different organisations that I've been involved in are just absolutely outstanding. And I must say this comes to bringing women in society and moving and recognising that we have a way to go in this space. I must say some of my background in understanding this space a little bit more. I'm the president of a gymnastics club with 1,400 girls who go there, 100 in the competitive stream, and I've seen these young women, and some of them have been to the Olympics, and the last 3 Olympics we've had a girl go to each. One of those particular girls had an issue which is widely known, who as a young person experienced terrible things happen on sexual abuse, and her perpetrator's now in jail for years and years and years. She went to the Olympic Games with that hanging over her head, and there was really not many people to go to and what to do in this space. The Athlete A movie documentary for people who saw that understand the importance of this issue. We need to protect females, support them and encourage them. Cardinia Shire Council does an amazing lot of work in this space, whether it be the LGBTI Ida Hobbit Day, recognising that, through our women's employment here at Council, where we have many female general managers, a CEO, and our staff has got more females in it than we do have males. The Together We Can project, which gave our council a national award in this space in doing something in the space, and Together We Can, the majority of the perpetrators, the majority of the people who are affected were females. Through this white ribbon, where we've been a credentialed group with that group and supported projects in this area. What this will do is this item that I've put up, that it will come every month on our agenda, this will give us an opportunity to share what council is doing in this space. It gives us a chance to acknowledge and look at those things and look for other areas where we can be best practice to continue growing in this space. We need to be, as one of the largest employers in all of Cardinia Shire, a leader and an example in this space. I know that we don't just talk the talk, we walk the walk in this space. And I look forward to seeing with council that we continue to be leaders, to set the example, and that we can ensure that our females on our staff will feel recognised, valued. They'll have a place to go to if they have any queries, not like some in the past, not in our organisation, but other organisations where they have nowhere to go, and that they can be the best they can be. I ask my fellow councillors to support this agenda item, and I look forward to the work that's going to be done and reported on, and see how we can recognise this issue and move forward in this space. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. I will go to the seconder, Councillor Springfield. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And I support this notice of motion. I think it's a great notice of motion that's going to highlight the fantastic work, as Councillor Ross has pointed out, the fantastic work that our staff do in this space. We have a great executive team here that I feel privileged to work alongside, and many of those roles are occupied, by female members. I think we have actually a really great, unique and diverse group of people that operate within this organisation, and in large part that is due to our fantastic CEO, who has been at the helm for nearly 3 years now, and has done a great job in really working in this space. So I look forward to including the highlights of what we are doing in this space, and it's all work that is going on and being undertaken in the background anyway. It's highlighting the gender equality and equity, and the plan that we are developing, the equality action plan that we are developing currently, which it's highlighted. It's been highlighted in the media quite a lot lately, and I think it's important as being community leaders to set the example and show how we operate in this space. And I've got to say that from my point of view, we've really worked well in this space as councillors in the past, and as staff and managers, and I would only like to see that bolstered and continue to be even more focused in the future, that there is no differentiation between one side or the other, but it is about working to the common good, and everyone's equal in this space. So thank you, Mayor. I will be supporting this notice of motion.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. Any other speakers, either for or against? Thank you, Councillor Kowalczyk.
Thank you, Mayor Owen. Thank you, Councillor Ross, Councillor Springfield. I will be supporting this notice of motion, but I just wanted to read a little bit this article a friend sent to me, which I think is pretty important in this space, not particularly pertaining to this notice of motion, Councillor Ross, which I wholeheartedly support, but it's important to remember when we're having this debate. Just a couple of sentences here. Remember, it's not about you. Ask women how you can amplify, not replace or usurp existing gender parity efforts. A large dose of gender humility will help. Decades of research on pro-social behaviour reveals a stark gender difference in how it is expressed. While women often express helpfulness communally or relationally, men show helpful intentions through action-oriented behaviours. Sometimes we need to rein this in. Refrain from taking centre stage, speaking for women, or mansplaining how women should approach gender equity efforts. I just think it's important that we keep that at the forefront of our mind when we speak about these issues, particularly as we are a male majority councillor sort of area here, despite the great efforts that our organisation's taking, led by our CEO. It's just important that as councillors, we keep that at the forefront of our mind. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kowalczyk. Any other councillors wishing to speak? Thank you, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I'll be in support of this. I think it's a great motion, and we do wonderful work here. I just want to go over a little thing that about how a person feels when they've been bullied in a work environment, or whether it be a social environment. And it's not necessarily about men saying something to women. It can be women against women as well, and that's probably the worst of the lot. Being a person that was bullied for 4 years in a work environment, you had people ignoring you when you walked in, didn't acknowledge you whatsoever, didn't say hello, didn't speak to you during the time that you were there at work. Staring at you, throwing their pens down whenever you spoke, rolled their eyes whenever you spoke, didn't respect anything that you had to say within your work environment. I think that's one of the things that is really quite painful. It's not about who the person is and what they say and how they say it. It's about the victim who receives it and how they receive it in such a way. If it offends them or upsets them, then that's where our gender equality has got a lot to do with victims of this disengagement of some people. Diversity is one of the biggest things that we also need to look at. Gender equality with males as well, and we don't always mention that because they too within their workplace can be disrespected, disregarded, and it's not a nice feeling for anyone to be in that situation. And that's why I value so much that our council is working so hard in what we're doing, because this will make a huge difference to our work environment, and hopefully no one ever goes through being a victim of any bullying or any intimidation or any threatening tactics within their work environment, anywhere, wherever you work, wherever you socialise, wherever you are. Equality is about equality, and it's very special and it's very important in our society.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan, for sharing your experiences. Thank you. There being no further speakers, I will go to the mover, Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. I thank everyone for giving their perspective on this issue, which is an extremely important issue at the moment, and it is a wonderful opportunity to right things which haven't been righted for since the beginning of time, basically. I mean, when you have a look at things, how far have we moved since, when you think about it, thousands of years that we've existed on the earth. Basically, New Zealand was the first country in the world to give women a vote in 1893. South Australia, 1894. And then you have a look at some progressive countries out there that you think would be moved ahead. It wasn't 1971 before Switzerland even gave women a vote. And then if you have a look at some other countries in the world, Saudi Arabia first gave the vote to women in December 2015. So the world has got a long way to come forward and along. It is really, really sad that people have had to experience the pain and hurt that they have to come out and share and come out of their shell to share those things. But it's our responsibility to take it a step further. I know this council doesn't talk the talk, we walk the walk in this space. And if we don't continue to move forward in this space, we'll only be getting further, we'll be going behind. So with this coming on and the movement in this area, looking for best practice, I look forward to being a leader in this space and that we can be a shining light to show other councils what can be done in this space. I ask my fellow councillors to support this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. I put the item 10.1, notice of motion 1064 by Councillor Colin Ross to a vote. All those in favour, please indicate by show of hands. Thank you. Any against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillors, that concludes discussion of the items withdrawn. May I have a mover, please, to adopt the officer's recommendations for the remaining items? That's been moved by Councillor Ryan, seconded by Councillor Moore. Councillors, I put that up to the vote. All those in support, please indicate. Show of hands. Thank you. Those against? That's carried. Thank you, councillors. Now, moving on to reports or minutes of committees. I note that reports from various committees have been received in addition to the minutes of recent council briefing sessions, and these are available if any councillors wish to view them. So can I have a mover, please? Yep, moved Councillor Kowazik. Seconded, I don't even think I need to do that, but I'm going to do it anyway. Thank you, Councillor Moore. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried. Thank you. Councillors, I move to Councillor Reports. So this is our normal monthly discussion for any councillor wishing to talk about their activities or reflections on Councillor Brown, if you wish. Thank you, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor. I visited my place last week and we did some candle making, and I smelt like so much scented perfume all over me. My poor dog didn't know what to think, but it was fun. We had all different colours, and it gave me a chance to speak to our youth in what their views are and how they perceive the new building that's going to be built. And they were all coming out with all different names, which was really interesting. So it'll be interesting to see what the result is of renaming the youth facility. I attended a interfaith meeting, and that's made up of all different faiths, and some that didn't have any particular faith, but we all come together and we all share about what's important within our community and what we can do for the community. Councillor Ross is on that committee as well. And so we were looking at things of how to involve our interfaith within our council, and we value anyone in the community that would like to join us. So it's every second Tuesday in the month. Yes. And we have it here in council. So that was really great. I went to the Sikh volleyball competition. Councillor Moore was there, Councillor Ross, Brad Batten was there, Jordan Cravali was there, and myself. And it was a fun day. Now, with the volleyball, the competition was over the Easter weekend, and they had teams nationally coming in, which was really fantastic. So kept getting in the way of the ball, though. I just think I kept positioning myself wherever I sat. I kept, having to dodge the balls. And I'd like to say a few things in reference to Councillor Brown, if I may. Councillor Brown brought a very strong identity with a strong connections direct to his aspirations to deliver for his ward, which was Port Ward and Western Port Ward. He was very popular, highly respected and admired for his work within council. Councillor Brown was always happy to share some of his knowledge and skills he had developed over many years of his working years, and in attending many committees over his 4.5 years of council. He wasn't afraid to question any councillor or any officer or even the CEO in council on issues and sometimes having a difference of opinion, especially when he thought that things weren't quite right. To him, he had a very direct approach in council, so you always knew where things stood when you were around him. I will miss catching up with Councillor Brown after our meetings. Also with Councillor Ross, we used to sit after our meetings and have a cup of coffee and have a debriefing. Councillor Brown was always quick to point out things that he didn't like from the outcomes, the decisions that were made on that night, saying, I must do a follow-up on that with that officer on that matter. He was always quick to point out, Councillor Ryan, I didn't agree with you, so I'm really going to tell you that I think it should be this way, and I hope to hear you say that in the future. So he was very encouraging. Councillor Brown was quick-witted with a dry sense of humour, but not everyone got his sense of humour, which he used to have, and we laughed many times. The one thing he said that it was disappointing that he didn't achieve to become elected mayor in council and to represent his community. He would have made an excellent mayor for our Shire, bring with him his compassion, empathy, directness and honesty. He achieved a lot for his ward, but he has left behind a great legacy for his role as a councillor in Cardinia Shire. He was my colleague, my mentor, and my dear friend in and out of council. I will miss his presence in council, but knowing he's at peace now, I will remember what he brought to our community, and I will value that so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you, Councillor Springfield.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I would just like to share a few words for our dear friend Ray Brown also. It's a sad night tonight. This is the first night since his passing, he won't be attending, and occupying his chair next to me here. Ray was a great man. Councillor Ryan summarised it quite well there. He was outspoken in his words, and he fought for what he believed in, and he was happy to tell everyone exactly what he believed. And he was a great person in that regards. It was a real privilege to share the last 5 years with him, and we both became new councillors in the previous term, and travelled that journey together. And, I had about 2 years back, I had a great night where myself and him and Alan and my ex-partner Jackie, we went out for dinner and see some music up in Belgrave, right? And it probably was maybe 6 months before he realised he was, unwell, and really shared some of his past and his stories with me from his working history in the past. And I learnt so much about him that night of what he's experienced in the world, and opened my eyes to some of the things that that this man had lived through. He had a wealth of experience in business and operations, and in hardship as well. They've listening to his stories of being in the with the trains network, being the emergency response management, of being the first responders to a lot of incidents they'd see there, was like that was eye-opening to hear some of these stories he shared. We shared a great night there. I'm really privileged to have and glad that we conveyed that and conducted that. We had this musician playing, Jeff Atchison, which many people might know. He's quite a famous Melbourne musician, but Ray knew him because he grew up next to Ray. Back many years ago, he was one of his dad. Jeff Atchison's dad worked in the trade company back in those days. They all lived in the same little network of houses, and so he had all these stories about him too. But he was he'll be sadly missed, and I can say there was not another councillor I've witnessed that's fought harder for his community in the past. So Ray's been a great asset to us all, and yeah, I'm sure everyone else will feel the same, that he'll be sorely missed in the future. Just like to pass on my sincere, heartfelt condolences for Alan and all their family. But thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield, for sharing that. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Kowaczyk.
Thank you, Mayor Owen. Thank you very much, Jeff. Carol, beautifully said. I too have just a few very brief words about Ray, but I'll just quickly wrap up some of the community stuff I've got to get through first and leave that to the end, just in case it gets a little bit emotional. Yeah, so if you could please just bear with me, I've just got to get through some of these things here. Last week, Respect Victoria launched a prevention of family violence campaign called Pride, Respect, Equality. The campaign focuses on preventing violence against LGBTIQ plus family members. I just want to bring that to councils and our community's attention, and if you're after more information, please look up Respect Victoria online. It's very important to our community to mention that. The Court Advisory Group, we had our first meeting of the year on Thursday night. I want to thank Councillor Tammy Radford for her attendance at the meeting, as well as the members who attended in person and virtually. The passion and commitment of the group was great to see, and we're looking forward to harnessing that into some really specific outcomes this year. It's also really proud, a real positive for me to say that we have a majority female membership in this year's group, as well as engagement with some of our younger members of our CALD community. I want to thank everyone for their commitment to the group, as well as Glenda and Alison for their work in this space in the past and present. And finally, before I speak on Councillor Ray Brown, I just wanted to announce that the Pakenham Primary School crossing was completed over the school holidays, and it's got its first workout today. So that's a fantastic result. Now to something that's actually important. I just have some brief words to say on Councillor Brown, and I think it's appropriate to mention them now, given this was his arena of choice. On a personal note, I didn't know Ray for a very long time, but upon meeting him, I immediately got a sense of the experience, knowledge, and gravitas he possessed. The thing that stuck with me the most was the passion he spoke with, particularly around his beloved Kooyarrup and the people within it. So my condolences to Alan and Ray's family. And on a professional note, I think everyone in the room is hurting tonight, and that's pretty evident. In particular, I'm thinking of Councillor Moore, who worked closely with Ray for many years, but also he had friendships right through the council. We've lost a titan in our community. Vale, Councillor Ray Brown. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Councillor Kowaczyk. Thanks for sharing and well said. Thank you. Councillor Moore, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Owen. Thank you, councillors, for wonderful words, kind words. And I do want to thank the staff and the councillors for their words of support for myself and my wife Sue, because this is very close to our hearts, particularly with my wife. My wife Sue's a very good friend of Alan, and they're like a rock together, so it's very supportive and very enlightening to see Sue and Alan together on Sunday. Was just a wonderful thing to see. What can I say about Ray Brown? Where do I stop and where do I start? I've got to make this short, Mayor Owen, because and I'm not going to make any apologies for getting emotional if I do, because sometimes that deserves to be done at the time. That's why I respect councillors who feel this. So I knew Ray 5 odd years before I got on council, and Ray wasn't on council. Now, he was on the Progress or Township Committee at Kooyarrup, and he's a titan. He was a titan of a man. When you're a councillor, you go to those Progress or Township Committee meetings, he really makes you accountable, I can tell you, when he did. And I respected him more than anything for it. I have to say that we agreed to disagree quite often at those times. But I respected him for who he was, and he respected me as well. And I think that was just a fantastic relationship, a great partnership formed in those years. When he became a councillor, of course, we got closer. And I remember so well the car travel we had to and from council here when he wasn't well. I used to take him home. to Alan, and so they're very appreciative of those. And I appreciate those talks on the way home. They were really fantastic. The brother I never had be Councillor Ray Brown to me, because we were very close in that regard. So when you see Ray, and you know Ray very well, you did, he had this skin of cast iron. It was a rock, pretty hard to get through. When you got through that cast iron, you got to someone that was soft and fuzzy inside. He was a mountain of a man, you know, like a person you could rely on, a person of principle. What he said, he stuck with. And a lot of us here have been witness to that, myself particularly, on certain occasions. And that's okay. I'm happy with that. But what he's done to his community up there is just unbelievable. When you look around and you drive around around the Cooruppan district and see the legacies that he's left, what a hole in that community there. It's going to be very hard to replace. Whoever steps into those shoes in that councillor position in that area has got a big job to do, and I can tell you. I'm not scaring anybody away from it, but what I'm saying, it's going to be a big job. One of Ray's communications we had in the car one night, he was going home and he said, look, you know, Graham, he said, I used to work with a really great man when he was the station master at Cooruppan, a really good friend of his. And he was his, he said he was his backup. He always had his back, he said, what his term was. And the gentleman had passed away, you know, so Ray was a bit down. I said, look, you know what? I'm going to be your back man. I'm going to be your wingman from now on. So that was something I could do for him at the time and be his backup. And he really appreciated that. And so we come very, very close. And now the community and us and my family are Alan's wing people. We're going to be their supporter, because one of the last conversations that Councillor Ray had with me, he rang me personally on the phone at home and said, just promise me one thing, you'll look after Alan after it's happened. I said, no problem. And the honour I'll have from here on is, Alan asked me a big question the other day on Sunday. Ray asked her to ask me to represent council at his funeral to speak on his council duties, and I'm so honoured to do that. It's going to be a big honour. It's going to be a big job, but I'm looking forward to up for the big jobs, and so that's going to be great. But you know what? That chair over there, I'm going to miss that look I see with that glint in his eye, the wry smile, the wit, the question of, I don't know what's going to happen next is with Councillor Ray Brown. The comment of the wry smile, the look again and saying, watch this. And then I didn't know what was going to happen from there on. But I'm there to support him, and I really, like I say, thank you again. We're going to miss him. The community's going to miss him. And certainly Cooruppan and his family's going to miss him, but we're going to be there for them. So rest in peace, my mate. And he's now at peace. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moore, for sharing that. Well said. I think Councillor Ross, you would like to say something. Thank you.
I'll share a bit more about Ray, the unofficial mayor of Cooruppan, in future. Just reporting, it's hard to go at the end after people have shared so much. Look, in relation to what I've been doing over the last month or so, I, like some of my fellow councillors, attended the Sikh Volleyball Australia-wide tournament that came here. The people were absolutely rapt that they could actually participate in something for a change. I mean, for the last year, they haven't been able to attend any events and do anything with their fellow sports players. I must say, it is just absolutely wonderful to be able to attend meetings with people in person. I mean, it's been so long that we've been looking into these sort of things, talking to each other. There's people out there that you've attended meetings with for over a year that if you walk down the street, you wouldn't even know who they were, because you've only seen this tiny little thing on the screen. And just being able to attend and meet with people in person is just wonderful. I must say I did a really good tour a few weeks ago with General Manager Peter Benezek. Already of the dozen things that I showed him, I think there's about 3 or 4 of them that have already been fixed. So that is wonderful. It was great to tour around with him and share the insights in the ward and the things that needed to be improved upon. And a lot of them aren't spending $10 million to fix up. It's only basically people's time and effort to put into that space. The Beaconsfield Recreation Reserve up there that we all visited the other week, I must say, I've driven past that over the last 12 years and never been inside the fence. I heard about it, but we had the opportunity to go there, and some of the opportunities that Melbourne Water shared with us would definitely be a benefit to the community. Hopefully they can come on board and see the benefits that will have the crossover between an environmental safety net and give them some joy out of the space at the same time. I must say it was great to, I play for Beaconsfield in Super Rules football, and on Sunday we had our first game in Cardinia, Shire. I must say it was just wonderful for all the guys to go out there and just do something outside of the home and be able to just get out there and feel like life was partly normal again. It was great to see the facilities being used that have been put in there in the old Perth Alice area, which has mainly been put in to make them gender neutral, so therefore all people can use those spaces instead of what it used to be for so many years. It was designed for blokes and that was it. I must say I really value the things that my fellow councillors have said about Ray, and he's a giant of a man. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Colin. Councillor Ross, thank you. Just a few statements from me. It has been a very busy month for the Mayor. We are now seeing openings recommence. It's great. Just a couple of things. I went to the Sikh Volunteers Thanksgiving. It was a fantastic event at Narre Warren. The Sikh volunteers have been so busy during COVID, massively busy, supporting our community, so it was great to attend and recognise volunteers. I attended the first Year 12 Officer Secondary College valedictory dinner, which was postponed obviously last year, but it was really great to go to that dinner and celebrate with those students. The first Year 7s, I think it was, for Officer Secondary, so it was really good, and it's been a tough year for them, so it was great to be invited to that. I had meetings with all of our Citizens of the Year, our Citizen of the Year, Young Citizen of the Year and Senior Citizen of the Year, just to see what they want to get out of the year, and I'm looking forward to working with them in their roles in the coming year. Also, Council held a student leadership conference with all our, a lot of student leaders from various schools across the Shire. So that was good. And on the last week, I went to the Cabaret in Gilwell Park in Gembrook, and the Cabaret is held every 3 years at Gilwell Park. And just some stats: over 3,500 Scouts, Cub Scouts, 828 leaders, 337 adult helpers, 202 Venturous Scouts, 43 Rover Scouts. So over 5,000 attendees up in Gembrook. That was amazing. Some of the food stats: 21,000 apples, over 7,000 tomatoes, 5.7 tonnes of meat, 1.7 kilometres of sausages. So amazing stats. And it was really good, and kids having so much fun in our Shire at Gilwell Park. That was only just a snapshot. I also want to thank all councillors for your reflections and tributes to our great friend, Councillor Ray Brown. I really enjoyed hearing your tributes. I knew Ray since before he was a councillor, and as said, he was a very strong advocate for his community, and I remember various budget submission periods as a chairperson of the Kiriup Township Committee or a committee member. He came and advocated at the council table for things that he thought his community well and truly deserved. And in my 16 years of council, I don't think I've seen a more impactful, more effective councillor that achieved so many results and good things for his community. And I want to sort of capture that and do that, because he was very successful in whether it was working with his colleagues, working with the officers to get things prioritised. And we're now seeing a really great legacy with what's happening in Kirrirup and the wider Western Port ward of things to come. So what a great legacy, and thank you. We remember. Rest in peace, Ray, and thanks, councillors. I know it's been a very difficult day and it'll be a very difficult week, so thank you and months ahead. I will now go to presentation of petitions, and councillors, are there any petitions that you wish to table? I've got a petition. It's got over 200 signatories, and I'll read. It's a petition to support new community buildings at Upper Beaconsfield Recreation Reserve, 38 Stony Creek Road, Upper Beaconsfield, and I'll read the prayer. We, the undersigned, being residents in the Shire of Cardinia, do hereby humbly petition the Cardinia Council Chief Executive Officer and councillors to accord the highest priority in the 2021 and 2022 budget considerations for the proposed redevelopment of youth, community and sporting facilities at the Upper Beaconsfield Recreation Reserve. These facilities should meet all current Australian standards, especially for female-friendly changing facilities and toilets suitable for all current and future user groups. So I will table this petition, and this will be reported back at the May Council meeting. So thank you. I will table that. Thank you. Moving on to community question time, and we have 5 questions from a Mr. Andrew McNabb, which were intended to be read out at the March Council meeting. I will now read out and respond to the questions. So first of all, the questions are: 1, Mayor Councillor Brett Owen. As a 3-time mayor, have you taken the option of having the use of the mayoral vehicle for 3 years? Is this correct? 2, have you ever used the mayoral vehicle for personal use in a way over this 3-year period? 3, have you ever used the mayoral car for personal use, such as dropping and picking up your children from school? 4, have you ever used the mayoral car for a family holiday? 5, how much would the mayoral vehicle cost the ratepayers annually to provide for use a mayor? I note your questions, Mr. McNabb. I would have liked to have seen you in person, but unfortunately you can't make the gallery tonight. I haven't seen you since the election last year, council election. The council expense policy provides the mayor of the day the choice to have a mayoral vehicle to fill their duties, rather than it being a mandatory requirement. In the 3 terms that I have been mayor, I have elected to have a mayoral vehicle available to me, as per and in accordance with the council expense policy and Cardinia's vehicle policy. And I have used the vehicle for full private use as per the policy. For the record, Mr. McNabb, I have not driven my children to school this current term as mayor. My children love to walk to school, and I support them in doing so. So for this year, anyway, Mr. McNabb, I can confirm that I have not used the mayoral vehicle to drive my children, my family, to school. So, and the last question, Mr. McNabb, the mayoral vehicle forms part of council's existing vehicle fleet and incurs an estimated cost to council per year of $15,000, inclusive of fringe benefit tax. So I think that answers your questions, Mr. McNabb. Thank you. I'll move on to the next community questions. That is, we have 2 questions from Jessica Walton, and I note Jessica's in the gallery. So the General Manager, Customer, People and Performance will read out and respond to question 1, and the Acting Executive Manager of the Office of the CEO will be read out and respond to question 2. So I will go to Thank you.
Question before you go to the next question. The only question you didn't answer in there was, have you taken
Thank you. I did respond to that as I've used it in accordance with Council's expense policy and Cardinia's vehicle policy. I have used the vehicle for full private use. So I think that responds to Mr McNabb's question, that I've had full private use. So thank you. I will go to the General Manager, Jenny Cicluna, and then Debbie Tyson. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Owen, and good evening, Jessica. I'll read out your question first and then the response. So your question is, I have a permanent disability, physical disability. My amputated leg will never grow back, and yet every 3 years I have to make a doctor's appointment to confirm that yes, I am still disabled and reapply to council for a disabled parking permit. Why is there no option for a lifetime parking permit for those with permanent disabilities, or at least a longer period than 3 years? Thank you for your question. In the past, Victorian councils have been responsible for administering the state government's disability parking permit program. The terms and conditions of this program have been directed by the state government rather than the local councils. However, local councils were the process point and deliverer of the permits. Fortunately, the Victorian Government has recently reviewed this program and is this year working with councils to implement a new one. The problem you describe with the current permit system has actually been addressed with the introduction of the new Accessible Parking Permit Scheme. The new Accessible Parking Permit Scheme streamlines the application process. It's now an online process, making it easier, simpler and more consistent across the whole state. Improvements to the scheme do include the introduction of a permanent disability classification, so reassessments are not required for future permit renewals. It also includes improvements such as the introduction of temporary permits for 6, 12 or 24 months, increased permit length from 3 years to 5 years for other individuals, and the inclusion of occupational therapists as assessors in addition to GPs. And there's better alignment between the Victorian and the COAG 2010 Australian Disability Parking Permit Scheme. So the new scheme and online system has replaced the previous Victorian code for disabled persons and individual council administration systems. So Cardinia councillors will receive a briefing on this new system in the coming weeks, and the Cardinia Council has begun implementation of the new system, and residents are now able to apply by returning to their normal GP and asking once more to apply for a permit renewal through the new Accessible Parking Permit Scheme. So it was good news.
Thank you, Ms Cicluna. I will now refer your second question to Ms Tyson. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your question, Jessica, which reads, many local councils have stopped using a Christian prayer at the beginning of council meetings in recognition of the diversity of religious beliefs in our community and the fact that some members of our community have no religious beliefs at all. The Australian Local Government Association, a national advocacy group for local government interests, agrees that the prayer should no longer be said at the beginning of meetings to make them more inclusive. Why then does Cardinia Shire Council still use the Christian prayer? Which councillors would support removing it? Jessica, in response, as per a previous council resolution, the Cardinia Shire governance rules require that the order of business includes an opening and a prayer. To remove the requirement for the prayer, an amendment to the governance rules would be required, and this would be at the discretion of councillors, the current councillor group, and would require a council resolution and public consultation as per the Local Government Act. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Ms Tyson. Just Jessica, just let you know, we'll formally write to you with those formal answers as well. Thank you. Moving on to, we have 5 questions from Rosa Santo. I refer, Rosa, I do note that you're in the gallery and it's good to have you back. I refer your questions to the Acting Executive Manager for the Office of the CEO, Ms Tyson. Thank you, Ms Tyson.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your 5 questions, Rosa, which I will read and answer after each question. Travelling expenses will be paid to councillors at the local government award rate. Claims are to be submitted at a frequency convenient to the councillor, but not less than once per quarter. Question 1. Why is this information on the council's website not up to date for 2020-21 for residents to see? Who oversees this information? Claims are to be submitted at a frequency convenient to the councillors, but not less than once per quarter. So I offer the following response. The council's governance team is responsible for posting of all approved travel expenses onto the Cardinia Shire Council website. This practice is normally performed mid-month to capture all the possible expenses from the prior month to ensure the website is up to date. Currently, February's information is on the website. Second question. Under the Local Government Act, travelling expenses claims are to be itemised on Council's website, like last term, where they were itemised, but are not itemised this term on Council's website. Why is this not itemised lately? When was the decision made to exclude this information? Who is responsible to enter this information online? Can it be updated, please? In response, approved travel expenses are posted onto the Cardinia Shire Council's website as itemised amounts that were reimbursed to each councillor. The practice has not altered between council terms. The council's governance team is responsible for posting of itemised travel expenses reimbursements onto the Cardinia Shire Council website. Moving to council question 3. The council will reimburse the cost of childcare expenses incurred by councillors for their immediate family necessarily. The council will reimburse the cost of family necessarily included under the following circumstances. How does this work? Is childcare carried out by a reputable company? What is their hourly rate for childcare? How are they paid through council? Is it documented? If not, why not? And by whom is this overseen by? Where can this information be found? In response, council reimburses all eligible councillor expenses, including childcare, in line with our council expense policy. Each council expense item is independently assessed and approved by the Office of the CEO prior to any reimbursement. All councillors' expenses, including childcare and their amounts, is reported on council's website. Question 4. During COVID-19 pandemic 2020, the mayoral role of face-to-face appearances were limited to around 5% to 10% workload. But still, the mayor received their full allowance of $81,204. Now the allowance has gone up to $100,434. But the mayor's workload of face-to-face appearances will still be limited as we are still in recovery stage and don't know when you will be able to carry out your full workload. Considering that a lot of our residents in Cardinia Shire have lost their jobs or are limited on the Centrelink payments and are struggling to pay their bills, how can you justify this pay rise of nearly $20,000 per annum when residents in our Shire are in this predicament? However, I would accept a pay rise for the mayoral role the same as a councillor's pay rise of nearly $6,000 due to becoming a single councillor ward. I have the following response. Mayor and councillors are entitled to receive an allowance whilst performing their duties. Councils are divided into 3 categories based on the income and the population. The Minister for Local Government has set Cardinia Shire Council as a Category 3 level council. The Victorian Independent Remuneration Tribunal allocates the amount to be paid to the Mayor and the councillors. This officer's recommendation is that councillors set the level of Mayor and Council allowance in accordance with the level allowed as a Category 3 council, as identified by the Victorian Government. And finally, question 5. Why was the mayoral vehicle not utilised by other staff members during COVID-19 pandemic and instead of sitting at the Mayor's home due to limited of 5% to 10% work capacity? In response, the mayoral vehicle forms part of Council's fleet of vehicles and was assigned to the Mayor to fulfil his duties. This again is in line with the Council's expense and motor vehicle expenses policy. I thank you for your question, Rosa.
Thank you, Ms Tyson. Rosa will obviously write to you as well and provide you that response in writing. Thank you, councillors and members of the gallery and people tuning in. It has been a very difficult night for many of us, so thank you so much, councillors. So that concludes tonight's meeting. Thank you for your interest in watching and participating in the meeting, and I declare the meeting closed. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Good night. Take care.